Hey guys, Silent here, and today I got Blasphemous 1 for you. Another episode within the Gem series. So I've been playing this game for a while now. It's getting really good and better the longer I play it, so I kinda wanna discuss why I think that, and it's got some really great value. Now, before I start the video, I did actually record the audio. Well, I thought I did, it didn't work. So that's 20 minutes down the drain. So I'm hoping that this won't sound too boring, because that really was a good recording, but nothing's there. Anyway, so the atmosphere in this game is very dark. It has a religious twist on it, and that's really cool. It makes it really stand out in my opinion. So I really like the exploration in this game because it feels rewarding without wasting your time. So it gets easier the longer you play the game, but it's not like you have to grind to actually experience the payoff. So when you explore, there are collectibles, and they serve many different purposes, but one of the main ones is to strengthen your character, right? Strengthen yourself. So you can find these, for example, these knots, and these knots allow you to then interact with a NPC, which gives you more slots for these knots, and that way you can slot in more powerful passive powers you find again by exploring within many different zones. That's how you get stronger, for example, from exploring, and there are a crap ton of collectibles out there for you to find. There are also collectibles that change the way you see the world, so this is something that is really cool, and it builds another layer on top of the basic exploration. So it's no longer just this is what I see, but this is what I might see. So these tools are again just found by exploring or by interacting with NPCs, which I can get onto later. The best one I can think of on top of my head right now is the blood platforms. So usually whenever you explore a zone, you might see these like red dots flying around, but you don't really know how to engage with it. Well, now if you find the tool, and I don't know where the tool is, I actually forgot, it allows you to spawn blood paths, which means you can now climb into areas you wouldn't be able to before. Sometimes you can actually, like, it leads you under a platform that you could literally physically not get to, because you literally have to destroy the physics of gravity. So like it allows you to reach areas you would never be able to reach. One of the examples would be, there's an area where there's like a huge hallway and there's a huge bell swinging, and you can climb up this huge hole, and there'll be like a wall in the ceiling, but obviously you can only get there with the blood platforms. So that's really cool. It opens up a lot of doors. And puzzles. There are many puzzles to be found. Some are very obvious. For example, you've probably done this very early in the game, where you see these bells, and if you hit the bell there's a wave, and if it chains all the way to the end you open a chest. There's a more difficult puzzle that I haven't solved yet, and you have riddles in the library, and I don't know what they mean and where I need to go, but it is one of those riddles that clearly I'm missing something from somewhere else. So it's not just a simple go in this room, figure it out and leave. Now this type of exploration I really like, because it, as I said before, it builds another layer and allows you to actually explore older areas again, but you have new areas within that zone. So it's not just the same thing again. There's something else that you haven't been able to get to or interact with, but now you can. And that alone in itself just blew my mind, right? I love when games do that, when they don't force me to explore, but if I do, I get to see much more and it doesn't waste my time. So that is amazing. All zones will have their own obstacles, which makes them very interesting to explore, and some of them are very annoying, but again, if you have the right tools, you can do it all. For example, in the sewers you have the poison clouds, or in the swamps you have the pirates. I don't know the tool that deals with the pirates because they constantly resurrect after you kill them, but for example in the sewers you have a poison cloud. In the crypts I believe you have a poison cloud, and if you have a tool, silver lungs, you can actually breathe in these poison clouds and they don't damage you anymore. Again, opening much more areas within many different zones, not just those ones. And these obstacles do like to repeat sometimes, but they're mainly key in their own zone. Which brings me to the next point, is that bosses in this game are rare. They're not common, which makes them feel important, impactful, and they really do test what you've learned up to that point. My favorite fight is the Three Sisters, and this one's really cool because you have to keep climbing upwards. There's fire everywhere, and there's 3 of them attacking you at the same time. I gotta tell you, the bosses in this game are not easy, but they do feel rewarding, and since they're not common, it really feels like I have encountered a boss, right? Not some sort of elite or some sponge, but a boss. The music also slaps. Also, if you love Doom and the finishers, then this game's got amazing finishers. One of my favorite ones is where you pick up the guy with like the red whip and like the red mask. If you're into that stuff, you'll definitely enjoy it. The character progression is really cool. One of my favorites because it's simple. It isn't fast because again it is based on the exploration. So the more you explore, the stronger you get by, let's say, finding the statues, which then unlock new abilities, and having more movesets makes it a big bonus, especially later in the game where some fights are quite complex in terms of movement. So having these extra tricks up your sleeve will definitely make it easier. And obviously collectibles, you know, the different passive powers, huge stuff like take less damage from fire. Oh well, I'm fighting the fire damage, I'm so glad I got that. Or, you know, taking less damage from the back, I think there's one like that. Or when you get knocked, the recovery speed is quicker, or it increases your window of parrying so you can parry perfectly better. Everything's tied to exploration, and it really feels rewarding when you progress your character that way. You know, it's not something that you just go in, kill tons of stuff, farm some bunch of stuff, turn this, you know, these thousands of whatever, and get really strong. You feel like you're actually going through a journey, and all these abilities and passive powers feel impactful, which it should. The story in this game is really good, especially for those people who don't really like having to read huge paragraphs. The short bursts of dialogue from many NPCs, whether it be main NPCs or just random text on the wall, whatever, filled with rich details of the game's story, making it very engaging, and it's not even annoying because it doesn't happen often, and it really just smoothly introduces you into the story, into the current setting, how the character's feeling. It's a smart way in my opinion. It's not really drip feed, but it definitely does feel better than having to read paragraphs, especially if some people just don't really care. There's such little sentences that, like, come on, I think you'll actually know what's going on in the game by the time you finish, even if you weren't caring too much about the story. The music, I did say that it does slap. It gives me off Spanish vibes, so it really does help with immersion. Every collectible has its own story as well. If you want to read it, really cool stuff. And also, NPCs have their own stories, and obviously if you've been exploring, you might be able to find one of the items they require, and then you'll be able to help them and get secret stuff. And again, more story, experience their own side of the whole impact of the world they live in, and all the religion and all the punishment and worshipping, etc. One of my favorite side quests is definitely the guy who you meet whenever you got the upside down bell, and he wants to get across, so you help him to get across, and every time you help him, he gives you a foot, and then he reaches his destination and he's really sad about it. I'm not going to say what happens next, but there are secret interactions, and I think I said plenty for you to understand what to do when you get there. So that's really cool. There's a lot of cool interactions, and I feel like every NPC just feels unique, and the world is pretty big, so you can get a lot out of it. And that really did hook me into the game because I didn't feel like I was bombarded, but everything was right. Now, with this series, I also really like to balance out, so I do like to have a lot of positives, but there were some slight issues that slightly annoyed me, but they're not ridiculous. Picking up the game after a break does suck, because there actually isn't any objectives on the map on where to go, unless you actually keep track. Your main course of where to go is by listening to the dialogue, so it is your responsibility to mark it on your map or just remember where to go. Trust me, there are many times I forgot to mark the map, I took a break, I came back, and I was lost. Movement does feel clunky, especially in the beginning, even more so if you haven't been playing or never played Metroidvanias. Getting used to it will take some time, and I didn't really realize it until I fought the three sisters. Again, I don't have footage because you had to, whilst fighting the bosses and moving upwards, you had to also perform jumps, and you also had to climb the wall. And there were many times where I just either I misclicked or fat fingered or just didn't register and I fell to my death. And sometimes it just felt so bullshit. Okay, it didn't really feel fair. Try and practice when you're playing the game, but it might just be a skill issue on my behalf, really. And another thing that annoyed me the most, especially on my first playthrough, was because there are actually time limited side quests. So side quests are like the one you just fight by exploring NPCs, but I don't really know how much of them are in the game. But the most common one is on the snowy mountains on top, where the guy is stuck in a tree. When you activate that side quest, you have to return to him within a set period of time. I don't really know how long he gives you, and obviously if you fail, then well, it's failure. I'm not going to say what happens again, but I did fail this quest on my first playthrough and I felt bad, and especially because I didn't know it was a timed quest, and I was also too weak within the zone to actually do anything because I was just that bad at the game. And then I realized that I probably failed a lot of quests before I even knew. So I suggest don't interact with every NPC unless you're fully confident you'll be able to do it. But it does make the world feel alive. It's not like one of these random scenarios where please find this missing friend of mine, and then it's been 100 years and that guy is still alive. Like, even though he's not meant to be immortal or anything, he's still just a young guy waiting for you to rescue him. So it does make the world feel alive, that if you do promise to help someone and you fail, you will face consequences. But I really like it. It really just makes that first playthrough really unique and impactful, because we all know when we fail the quest, right? It's just something that is just stuck with us right till the end of the credits. So that sums up really the video. That's what I had to say about this game. I think Blasphemous 1 is a fantastic Metroidvania if you haven't played it, or if you have and you're looking for more. Now, a side note before I finish up the video, I am aiming to upload once every 2 weeks, and I'll try my best to achieve that. I haven't really been consistent with it, but I'll really try, because life does get in the way. So I just wanted to clarify that out to you guys out there. Thank you for listening. Thank you for watching all the way to this point. I did change how I structured my videos, so hopefully this was a bit more engaging than my previous videos. And as always, like and subscribe, and I'll see you again with another gem.